Texas Governor Greg Abbot just promised to go ahead and build the border wall that Donald Trump started and Joe Biden ended. He is tired, very, very tired of Joe Biden's complete disrespect for border states and the rule of law in this country. And frankly, I think a lot of southern border states are in the same boat, and we'll see if they follow suit with Greg Abbott. This comes hot on the heels, as it were, of Kamala Harris and her uncomfortable interview with friendly CNN journalist Lester Holt, and where he asked her why she refused to go down to the border in Arizona. And her answers have been not only baffling, Republicans and, right-wing commentators around the globe, they're also baffling to her own administration and her own party. The border is a real issue, and by pretending it's not, they are avoiding taking action, and it's impacting the lives of Americans. So let's talk about what's going on in Texas. I'm Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, small law firm in central Minnesota. I'm a lawyer. I'm also a legal and political commentator on YouTube and on Odyssey. Wherever you're watching, hit that like button, hit subscribe, turn on your notifications. I don't want you to miss any of these videos. Okay, so what do we got here? This is from Fox News. As always, the link to this will be down in the description if you want to check it out. We're going to take a pretty good look at this article, but it'll be there if you want to click on it. So Governor Greg Abbott announces Texas will build the border wall amid Biden's willful and wanton disregard for laws. Abbott will also increase penalties for infractions such as trespassing. You gotta remember that when you cross the border illegally, it's not like you're just walking onto some random land that nobody owns. Either the government owns it, the federal government owns it, the state government owns it, or a private citizen owns it. That's the reality of land in the United States. And so a lot of times these border crossings involve trespass. Sometimes those trespass implicate the safety of the landowner, or they can have damage to their property. So increasing these laws or the infractions and the penalties for the infractions, the penalties for these infractions is supposed to have some sort of deterrent effect, and only time will tell if that'll be effective. Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced his state has allocated $1 billion in its fiscal year budget toward border security, telling the Ingram Angle on Thursday he will use part of that money to resume the construction of the U.S.-Mexico border wall started by Donald Trump but hastily halted by President Biden. And the halting of building the wall is baffling. This wall has been approved by Congress. It has been passed into law, signed into law by a president. This law, this wall needs to be built under the law, and to have a president just come in and override the will of not only the American people, but also the Congress and the prior president that have made this into a lawful act requiring the building of a border wall. The fact that we have presidents who keep just stopping the construction is a little bit troubling, in my opinion. Like the border states clearly want a border wall. They clearly want it. They're dealing with the problem, and it's not only a humanitarian crisis, but it's also a state issue with enforcement, with budget, with protecting its citizens, protecting its officers and agents. These states are bearing the brunt of Washington, D.C. policy. And guess where there is no border wall necessary? Washington, D.C., right? They don't have that. They don't have those issues in Scranton or in Washington, right? Like, they don't have to deal with the reality of what the human toll of the border being so porous is. They don't have to deal with the murders, with the kidnappings, with the trafficking. They don't have to deal with any of that stuff, with the drugs. It's not impacting these states that are insulated from the border by the other states. That insulation has a cost to it, and those states are tired of paying it, frankly. Abbott says he had had enough of the White House's willful disregard for the rule of law and for the well-being of Texans and Americans, especially those in places like Del Rio and other border towns. Quote, to make a fine point on it, we have to build a border wall, said Abbott. I've been down here talking to the people in the Rio Grande Valley, and the way they are being overrun is reprehensible. It's disastrous what the Biden administration has done. Abbott condemned Biden for ending the Remain in Mexico policy that Trump forged with Mexican President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, which staved off some of the influx of migrants as they were being instructed to file for asylum in Mexico before crossing into the United States. And then, quote, Trump began building the border wall, and now suddenly all of that disappeared. And as you highlighted, it has led to a dramatic increase in the number of people crossing the border. But it's not just unaccompanied minors. That's the news story, right? Oh, it's unaccompanied minors who are crossing the border, and the minors aren't being treated well by these states, and et cetera, et cetera. Even though, immigration policy is in significant portion enforced by the federal government. Who built the cages, Joe? It's people who are causing great damage and harm to the residents right here in Del Rio, up and down the entire border. It's not just unaccompanied minors. It's all kinds of people. And in some cases, some very bad people. And even when it's just normal, good, decent people crossing the border, trying to get a new life or whatever, they typically are employing the services of very bad people who cause those people lots of harm and cause harm to the communities in which they're operating. Under his state of emergency declaration, Abbott noted the Texas Department of Public Safety can increase penalties for crimes such as trespassing, on which police will elevate the number of arrests of illegal immigrants intruding into Texas land. Quote, we're going to take this very seriously. We're going to do everything possible to secure our border, including building a border wall, he said, added that he will share details on that endeavor later next week. And he went on to criticize Vice President Kamala Harris's ineffective tack toward border security, calling the administration's behavior willful and worse. Quote, it is purposeful. It's wanton disregard for the border laws, for the immigration laws, for the border communities, for candidly anybody in the United States of America. Quote, the Biden administration has abandoned the border. Any pretense of border security, any pretense of enforcing our immigration laws, they've laughed it off just the exact same way that Vice President laughed it off in her interview the other day. So it is a joke to the Biden administration. And this is the reality. For Kamala Harris, for Joe Biden, for the Democrats in Washington, D.C., this is a laughing matter. It is. It's not reality for them. They're not dealing with the human costs, with the infrastructure costs, with the monetary costs that border states have to deal with. They don't have to have state funerals for agents killed. They don't have to clean up the trucks full of bodies that get dumped when a border crossing goes wrong. They don't have to deal with that. It's all abstract and tangential, and worse, as demonstrated by Kamala Harris, they don't even feel the need to go to the border to talk to the people who do have to deal with it. They're setting policy absent the context of the costs that these policies will have on the people who have to deal with them. They're doing it from their ivory towers. So it's good to see this. I think this is a great move for Texas. I think other border states should follow suit. Absolutely. Border walls have been proven to be effective. Walls are shockingly good at keeping people out of things. It's been this way throughout all of history. Are they perfect? No, there aren't perfect systems. But do they mitigate? Do they mitigate what's going on? Do they reduce the flow, the influx of people into a state? Well, yeah, if you've got a big giant wall that is significantly harder to get around, above, under, or whatever, it makes it shockingly harder to get into the U.S. and less people come into the U.S. It's just a practical reality. It's one of the most effective policies that can be implemented to reduce border crossings that are illegal. is to just put a physical barrier there. It stops it. It's the same reason you lock your car door. Can someone pick the car door lock? Can they use a Slim Jim and unlock it? Yeah, they can. But you lock it anyway because the act of having to unlock the car makes it less likely that it will be broken into. It's the same thing with the border. It always has been. And it's unfortunate that the Democrats are pretending over and over on this issue that reality isn't real, because it does have real cost to real people. But that's what I think. Why don't you tell me down in the comments below what you think? And until next time, thanks for watching. Peace. Peace.